and I teach 3rd grade. So as soon as we get my little show going here, I can't do it without the cheat sheet and the show and everything. I don't know. I go into the classroom every day and it's not ever a problem. Like I can't forget what to say, but adults are a little more intimidating. So if you want to go ahead, I think we have a slide of some pictures. And this is just kind of like, I looked on the WHO website, the World Health Organization, about children. And in the past, long ago, I think that was like 13th century, the worldview of children was they were just little mini adults. And so the artwork on the left, you can kind of see that there's the proportions and everything are adult size. And then during the Renaissance, they realized that, you know, children are not the same as adults, and children go through different stages. And so that's something to keep in mind with the PARCC testing, because the PARCC testing was not made by people who necessarily have studied child development. It was built backwards from college downward. And so what I'll show you today is what, in my opinion, is the totally developmentally inappropriate use of this test on 3rd graders. For this year, though, we have a reprieve in 3rd grade. And we're taking the OAA test again for the 2nd time in the spring. We're not taking the PARCC test in reading, but we will take the PARCC in math. But at this point, very honestly, I'm worried about reading because I have several students that are my low students that I really want them to move on to 4th grade. So for this year, students must attain a 394 on the OAA in fall or spring to be promoted to 4th grade. So what that means is if you have your score report and you're a parent of a 3rd grader and they exceeded 394, really taking the test again, if you decide to refuse, there won't be any kind of consequences on your child. There are also, for those students who do not get the 394, there are vendor assessments that are purchased by the district. Some districts purchase them, some districts have tied all their money up into preparing with technology and they don't use these things. But what they are is the NWEA MAP test. If a child has a 184 in the fall or the spring, they're safe. They can be promoted regardless of what their OAA score is. The Iowa assessment, they need a 170 and a 596 on the Terra Nova. Okay, anyone who doesn't meet that cutoff can attend summer school, and then there is another shortened OAA administered in July. Okay, so any one of those above satisfies the promotion requirements under the 3rd grade law. So for this year, just a little review here. Anyone who's a parent, if you're here, you probably are. Oh, do you want to go ahead to my green colored slide? I miss my little buddy James. We all studied this. Everybody who's a teacher has studied this. You take child development because you have to understand that they're not little adults. They go through stages. So they don't come out, I mean, if you want your kid to be a track star, obviously when they're born, you're not going to say, okay, run, run, you got to go do some laps. So this is just kind of like the phases that they go through. There's sensory motor from age 0 to 2, there's pre-operational from 2 to 7, concrete operational goes from 7 to 11 years, and formal operations 11 years and older. That's really important. That's really key to my argument against the PARCC test, because we're asking 3rd graders to do formal operations on a standardized test. So if you can flip ahead to the next little picture. Okay, children also go through different stages as they develop as readers, and this again has been studied by lots and lots of researchers, and so it's really right out there. Unfortunately, I don't think everybody always looks when they come up making tests. So there's emergent literacy, decoding. Where we are in the end of 3rd grade is they're just developing fluency. So they're just beginning to be able to read prosodically and read with expression. Before that, it's all kind of like word for word. But they're really, beginning to make meaning out of text. And that's typical, that's normal. But in the past, I don't know, since all of this testing started coming, we've been pushing deeper and deeper comprehension down and expecting them to do harder and harder tasks with the comprehension. And it's just not developmentally there. They're not ready for it. So all those times that we kick ourselves and say, our scores are low, they're where they should be. And, there's not really a whole lot that we can do with it. So we go on, and, to the adult where you can see things on a world view. Okay. Under Common Core and PARCC testing, they're moving away from, if you use AR and STAR to get a reading level for kids, it's more of what's called this Lexile now. So the Lexile level will replace the little ZPD level that AR and STAR tests gave your kids. So these are the numbers by grade level, and what this is kind of the median. So when you take that bell-shaped curve that you have, this is everything kind of in the middle of that. So for third grade, they should be somewhere between 330 to 700 on their measures of Lexile. And the accelerated reader system itself is transitioning over. So if you get those STAR reports or those TOPS reports when they take a quiz on the computer, you'll start to see a Lexile level along with their grade equivalent, and that's how the level reading programs will work. So I took a passage from PARCC and I put it into a Word document, and then I just copied and pasted it into a Lexile analyzer that's available free on the Lexile website. And what I found is that the Lexile measure of the very first PARCC practice reading passage was a 1030. Now if we could go back and look at where they were supposed to be, thank you, 330 to 700. So 1030 is right around here between 6th and 7th grade. And that's the very first passage that they're taking. Okay, so this is all the stuff that I got, and I just kind of like snipped this out and said what I did. There's a blogger called Russ on Reading, and he has used different types of text analyzers, and all of them were a couple years ahead of the student's reading level when he analyzed the text from the PARCC passages that are available as practice passages. So that's something else to think about. All right. I also looked at the end of the passage. The passage that the students are reading on the practice test is something, it's probably because the copyright law is expired and the PARCC company doesn't want to pay for more modern stuff. So this is a passage from 1910. And here's the question, and the prompt, I didn't get the prompt and everything in here because I didn't want it to be overcrowded on the slide, but the prompt asks them to read paragraph 28 and then answer part A and part B. So it says, when the long day was over, they started up the lone little path past Johnny Chuck's house to their own homes. They didn't hurry now, for they were so very, very tired. And they were cross, oh so cross. Striped Chipmunk hadn't found a single nut. Peter Rabbit hadn't found so much as the leaf of a cabbage. Bobby Raccoon hadn't found the tiniest bit of sweet milky corn. Jimmy Skunk hadn't seen a single beetle. Reddy Fox hadn't heard so much as the peep of a chicken. And all were as hungry could be. Here's a question for part A. What does cross mean as it is used in paragraph 28 of Johnny Chuck finds the best thing in the world? And there are the choices. Excited, lost, upset, scared. Now, knowing my 8-year-olds in my classroom, they would be searching for the word hungry, starving, because there is no context clue that really helps you without doing a lot of deep thinking. And I basically, sometimes I try to think like my kids do, and I try to slow my thinking down, and I'm like, well, maybe they would say, well, they couldn't have been excited because they were tired. So they would have to spend a lot of time processing and comprehending this passage. And there's no clue that really helps you if you don't already know that cross means ticked off, like the test gets me. So for them to get that, they would have to eliminate, or knowing that they're 8 or 9 years old and they're stuck here taking this long test and they know that there's a lot of pages coming up because we're taking it paper and pencil, they will probably just take a guess. And I wouldn't blame them. So here's part B. Which statement best supports the answer to part A? So the first two aren't even in that paragraph. They're back someplace else in the story. And the directions said read paragraph 28. But I couldn't find A or B in that paragraph. So it has to be C or D, but I don't even know which one it is. So this is what we're putting them up against, you know, for 75 minutes at a time, 2 times, starting next year. And I don't think I'm going to have my kids ready to succeed on this. So then I said, well, they're not allowed to use the dictionary, but let's just look in the dictionary for the word cross. So I found a student dictionary online and I found the word cross because when you feel cross, that's an adjective, right? It's describing a feeling. So if you look at that, it's like the third one down is an adjective because my kids are going to think, well, cross, you know, the cross, Jesus, the cross, or cross the street. They're never ever going to think cross because you have archaic language from 1910 passage. So go ahead. So I finally found it when I went and clicked on that third one down because I knew it was an adjective. I don't know if they'll figure that out, but it doesn't even say anywhere that the word can mean upset. I always thought cross meant angry. So I'm really confused, and this was the first one, and it's the only one I need to show you today. But here's the kind of stuff I do in my classroom with my kids. And, you know, I'm sure that there are people that are saying I'm not rigorous enough or I'm not challenging them enough, but this is what a 3rd grader can do. Josie received a bauble for Christmas from her great aunt. This she put with her others a pair of imitation earrings, a fake emerald pendant, and a ring that looked like a ruby. Now, there are clues in this sentence that will help you figure out what a bauble is. That is what is appropriate for 3rd graders, this type of passage. Not some 1910 with, you know, weird characters and people feeling cross. Just another slide really quickly. This is 8-year-olds. They want a right or wrong answer. The PARCC test, the math test, has like equivalent fractions on a number line, and there are 6 choices. They have to find 3. They don't get credit for the question, or they can get like partial credit, or it's really very, very nebulous about how they get credit. But if they don't get all 3, they don't get the full credit. And so they like one answer, just one. And some of them are 9, so I'm not, you know, being a whiner or anything, but so this is what 9-year-olds can do. They can start doing book reports. They can do a little bit more, but, you know, 8 and 9-year-olds, you can't expect them to succeed with that kind of stuff. And I thought it was really interesting. They've overcome most fears that were common in earlier childhood, but they often start having more anxiety from common stressful situations such as school performance. So, you know, it's your 3rd and 4th graders where this is really going to start to hurt. And, oh, after they're done reading the passage and answering all the questions, this is what they get to do. They get to write an essay and explain how the characters' thoughts and actions in the story were whatever. So I just thought I would hold up a couple of papers here just to show you that even though we used to hate the OAA and complain about it, this is the kind of writing they had to do on the OAA. Pick out 2 ways the characters prepare for winter, 2 ways the animals prepare for winter. Go back and find that in the passage, which is way more appropriate than, you know, some of my kids struggle with grading. So you're going to give them 2 blank pages with lines. Here's another one where they do 2 events from the selection. So this is what their OAA looked like. This is what my kids next year will be looking at. This is the first item. The other thing about the OAA is it starts off easy. It doesn't start off with figuring out what the word cross means. It starts, you know, all the kids get it right. And so, you know, we're not thinking about the affective domain or how the kids feel. We're going to slam them with this hard story from 1910 with archaic words that they have to try to guess what they mean. And we're going to make them all feel like they're dumb. Are we lost? Okay. So you might wonder what this is about, and this is my conclusion, it's just my opinion. The word rigor. I hear rigor all the time in education now. Rigor in the dictionary is harsh, severe, tremor, you're dead, rigor mortis sets in. So, but they talk about rigor and, you know, make sure that your teaching is rigorous. So if you look at the next one, I found the education definition from edglossary.org, and they say, dictionaries say it's rigid and inflexible or unyielding. Educators frequently apply rigor or rigorous to assignments that encourage students to think critically, creatively, and more flexibly. Well, I know what rigor means, and I think that the dictionary definition is right when used to describe the PARCC test.
Kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
And I believe